Hey y'all, my name's Malcolm Reed. I live out in Brinley, Missouri. 30 years ago, I buried my wife, Denise. A police officer shot her by mistake, said he thought she was somebody else. I stood over that casket and I told myself, that's it. That's the woman I was going to grow old with. I never really came back from that day. I kept breathing, kept working, kept paying bills. But I was alone. House was quiet. Too quiet. Then about 6 months ago, the phone rang. Just a regular evening. I picked up and I said, "Hello, who's this?" And this woman's voice said, real soft, "It's me, Denise, your wife." I just sat there with the phone to my ear. For a minute, I let myself believe God gave her back. But later, I found out who that woman really was. And I ended up standing in front of the hardest choice of my whole life. So listen, stick with me, hit like if you can, and tell me at the end, what would you have done? I really do need your advice. All right, let's roll it back to the day that call came in. That day started like every other day I had after Denise died. I woke up before the sun, not because I had to, just 'cause old men wake up early. House was quiet, no radio, no coffee pot gurgling on its own, no voice in the hallway. I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge. Half a carton of milk, 2 eggs, leftover biscuits in foil. Same picture on the freezer door. Me and Denise at Lake of the Ozarks, 1991. I took my cup from the same spot. I've been keeping it for 20 years. I don't even think about it no more. Hand just reaches there. I made weak coffee, sat at the table, listened to the refrigerator hum. That's the thing about living alone. You start hearing appliances breathe. I washed the cup right away, put it right back. You do that when you got nobody else to mess it up. I went to work. I got a little repair shop off Highway 12. Brakes, tires, it starts at don't run jobs. Folks came in, said, "Morning, Mal." I said, "Morning." They talked about gas prices, about the game. I just nodded. Hands worked, mouth didn't. I've been doing that a long time. Fix other people's problems, keep mine to myself. By 6 I was home. I turned the TV on just to have sound, news, weather, somebody talking about Chicago teams. Heated up chili from the freezer, sat down at the small table made for 2 people and used just by one. Across from me, on the shelf, that same frame with Denise. Sometimes I say things to it. Not long speeches. Just, "You tell me not to eat this late." Or, "You remember that blue dress?" It helps. A little. I was getting ready for bed. Put the plate in the sink, turned off the TV, left the little lamp on in the living room. I hate walking into total dark. Outside I heard that 9:40 train roll through, low and long. That sound been keeping me company for 3 decades. Right then the phone rang. I frowned, 'cause nobody calls me that late. I picked it up and said, "This is Malcolm." On the other end, a woman. Her voice was kind of raspy, like she'd been through something. She said, "Hi, is this Malcolm Reed?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. Who's speaking?" And she said, real careful, "It's me, Denise, your wife." I didn't say nothing. My hand started shaking. I sat down 'cause my knees got light. She went on talking. Said she was in a place called Willow Harbor, up in Rivergate, outside Chicago. Said she'd had some kind of accident. Her memory wasn't right. In their little library, they had old local papers. She found a story about a black woman named Denise Reed from Missouri, shot by police. Looked at the picture, said the woman in the picture looked just like her. Same face, same eyes. And in the article there was a husband's name, Malcolm Reed. So she told the staff she needed to call that man. She said, "I don't remember everything. I don't even know why I'm here. But when I saw that picture I felt, that's me. And that's my husband." She asked me, soft, almost afraid to scare me off, "Can you come, Malcolm? Can you come see me?" I didn't think about work, about the time, about how crazy it sounded. I just said, "Yeah, I'm coming. I'm coming right now." I grabbed my keys off the hook and was out the door before the house even cooled from my body heat. It was dark, not city dark, but Missouri dark when the road is just 2 lines of paint and your headlights. I got in the Buick, turned the engine, and sat there a second with my hands on the wheel thinking, "Malcolm, you 60 years old. It's night. And you driving clear to Illinois 'cause a voice said it was your wife." I laughed. Little, tired laugh. But I still put it in drive. Highway was empty. Just me, some semis, and God. I kept watching the white line slide by, and I could feel both things in me at once. Fear and hope, like two people sit in the same seat. Part of me was saying, this don't make sense. You saw her buried. You saw the papers. You talked to the cops. And the other part was saying, what if the Lord just gave her back? What if? I started remembering that day. Closed casket, 'cause the bullet was bad. Pastor talking about the Lord taketh. Two white officers standing off to the side, hats in their hands, keeping their distance. One of them came up later, voice real low, said, Mr. Reed, it was a tragic mistake. That's what the newspaper called it too. Tragic mistake. Like putting tragic in front of it made it better. And right there on the road, this thought slid in. If she died back then, how's she talking to me now? I let it sit for a breath. Then I shove it down. I told myself, we can ask questions later. Tonight we believe. I crossed into Illinois past midnight. Lights started showing up. More cars, gas stations, that orange city glow on the clouds. My hands are tight on the wheel. I kept checking the scrap of paper where I wrote, Willow Harbor, River Gate, St. Augustine Hospital, like it was going to run away. When I turned off toward River Gate, I saw the hospital up on the little rise, big square building, windows lit, that blue ER sign humming. My heart started thumping hard, like it was trying to get there before I did. I pulled into the lot, put the car in park, and just sat a second, breathing. Okay, Malcolm, I said out loud. Either this is a miracle, or this is going to hurt. Then I got out and went inside. Lobby was bright like morning, even though it was night. Smelled like lemon cleaner and old coffee. Lady at the front desk looked up, said, Can I help you, sir? I said, Name's Malcolm Reed. I got a call about a patient from Willow Harbor. Her eyes softened like she knew which one. One moment, she said, and picked up the phone. Couple minutes later, a white woman in a cardigan came out. Mid-40s, tired eyes, kind smile. Mr. Reed? I'm Nancy Doyle. I help oversee the memory unit. We shook hands. Hers was warm. Thank you for coming this late, she said, and started walking. I followed. As we went down the hallway, she talked low. She was brought in 2 years ago after being struck alongside the road. Likely a vehicle hit and run. Significant concussion, some loss of long-term recall, gaps in personal history. No identification on her. No one reported her missing at the time. She's very gentle, very compliant, just unmoored. She glanced back at me. When she saw that article, it was the first time she pointed to anything and said, That's me. We wanted to honor that. We turned a corner and the hall got quiet. Just the hum from the vents and that hospital beep somewhere far away. Nancy stopped by a half-open door. She's right in here, she said. If she gets overwhelmed, I'll be right outside. I pushed the door. Room was small, soft yellow light on, blinds half open. And there, sitting in the chair by the window, hands folded over a blanket, was a woman. I knew her. Not kinda looked like. Not, maybe if you squint. I knew her like you know your own handwriting. Same big dark eyes, same calm mouth, same little curve in the cheeks when she was about to laugh. And over her right eyebrow, that tiny brown mole I used to kiss. Time had touched her. A few lines, a little gray in the hair. But it was her. Denise, I said. I didn't plan to. It just came out like breath. Her head snapped up. She stared at me 1 second like she was checking if I was real. And then her whole face cracked, and she started crying. Not loud, just water pouring down. I thought you wouldn't believe me, she said, voice shaking. She reached out one hand like a child. I crossed that room in 2 steps and took it. Her hand was warm. Real. Not from a dream, not from a casket. Real. I held it with both of mine, and I said, real quiet, thank you. Maybe to God, maybe to her, maybe to nobody. I was just thankful. She kept looking at my face like she was searching for pictures in there. Malcolm, she whispered, like she was tasting the name. You came. I came. I said, of course I came. Behind me, I heard another voice, a man's, professional. Mr. Reed. I turned. Tall black doctor, glasses, gray at the temples. I'm Dr. Everett Cole. I've been overseeing her case. I nodded, still holding her hand. He stepped in, but stayed respectful. What we know so far is she experienced a significant traumatic brain injury. That sort of insult can fracture memory, especially autobiographical memory. She remembers language, day-to-day, functioning, but personal identity is patchy. He looked from me to her. It is possible, not guaranteed, but possible, that familiar environments and familiar people may help reinforce lost pathways. I was only half hearing him. I was watching her thumb rub the top of my hand like she used to when I drove. She does well here, he went on. She's calm, no aggression. But this isn't a home. It's still a hospital. She would need rest. No loud stimuli. No confrontational questioning. Let memories come. Don't force them. I nodded. She can rest in my house, I said. She can rest in Brinley. Nancy kind of blinked, like she didn't expect me to say it right there. Dr. Cole folded his arms gentle. We can explore a home care arrangement, he said. It will require paperwork, some responsibility on your end. That's fine, I said, not taking my eyes off her. She's my wife. In my head, right then, there wasn't a test, there wasn't a doubt, there wasn't a what if. I'd buried Denise once. I wasn't about to leave her in a room by herself again. I turned to Nancy and said, plain as day, I want to bring her home. Nancy's eyebrows went up a little. Not rude, just surprised. Tomorrow, she asked. Tomorrow, I said. If y'all can do it. She looked at Dr. Cole like, can we? He gave one of those slow doctor nods. If he's willing to assume responsibility, we can arrange a temporary guardianship, he said. I'll put in for discharge notes tonight. Good, I said. Do it. They took me down to a little office off the nurse's station. Old computer, printer, poster about fall prevention. Nancy sat behind the desk and started typing. Because she came in as an unidentified adult, we need a legal point of contact, she explained. Temporary guardian means you make medical decisions, you provide housing, and you agree to notify us if there's any change. That's me, I said. She printed the first form. Name, address, phone, relationship. I wrote, spouse. My hand didn't even shake. Dr. Cole came in while I was signing. He had a clipboard with a discharge plan. I'm going to recommend a low-stimulation environment, he said. No loud TV, no crowds, no police activity, obviously. Regular meals, regular sleep. If she becomes confused, don't challenge, redirect. Let her come to things on her own time. He tapped the paper. We'll also need you to monitor for headaches, dizziness, changes in speech. If you see any of that, call us. I will, I said. She's going to be okay. He gave me a look. Doctor look, gentle but real. She's lucky you answer the phone, Mr. Reed. I almost told him, I've been waiting 30 years for that phone to ring, but I just smiled. Nancy slid another form to me. There will be some out-of-pocket cost until we can get her enrolled in state coverage, she said. Home health visits, medications. That's fine, I said, cutting her off without meaning to. Just put under my name. She studied me for a second, like she was checking if I understood what I was saying. Then she nodded. All right, we'll have her ready in the morning. I went back to her room just to tell her. She was sitting on the bed now, folded up small. When she saw me, she smiled tired. You leaving? She asked. Just for tonight, I said. I'm coming back in the morning. We're going home. Home, she repeated, like she was tasting it. I like that word. I touched her shoulder. Get some rest. Out in the parking lot, the night air hit me. Cool, hospital fans humming, sodium lights buzzing. I stood by my car and pulled out my phone. Called the shop. My buddy Ron picked up. Yeah. Ron, it's Mal. I ain't coming in tomorrow, I said. For a while. He was quiet. You all right? I'm good, I said, and for the first time in years I meant it. Family thing. Take what you need, he said. I'll cover. Appreciate you. I hung up and leaned on the roof of the Buick. For 30 years I've been walking around with a hole in my chest. Right there, in that hospital parking lot. It felt like somebody slid the missing piece back in. Next morning I was back before breakfast. They had her sitting in her own clothes. Simple sweatshirt, soft pants, sneakers. Hair pulled back. Looked less like a patient and more like a woman getting picked up from a friend's house. She smiled when she saw me. "You came back," she said. "I told you," I said. "We're going home." Nancy went over the papers one more time, put a little folder in my hand, reminded me about the phone number to call if anything changed. Dr. Cole stopped by the lobby, shook my hand, told her, "You're in good hands." Then it was just us. I walked her out slow. She moved careful, not weak, just like somebody who didn't want to mess up. I opened the car door, helped her in. She ran her hand over the dashboard. "Smells like motor oil," she said, smiling. "That's 'cause I fix cars," I said. "You used to get mad 'cause I smelled like this all the time." "I did?" she asked, curious like a child. "You did," I said and shut the door. Drive back to Missouri was different than the drive up. Sun was out. Road was clearer. And instead of talking to myself, I was talking to her. About Brinley, about the porch swing, about the lady down the street who always bakes too much. She listened real hard, like she was packing every word into a box. When we pulled into my driveway, my throat got tight. Same little one-story house with the white trim. Same steps. Same maple tree. I killed the engine and went around to her side. "All right," I said, trying not to sound choked up. "You know this place." She looked at it a long second, took a breath. "It feels right," she said. "I don't see it, but I feel it." I helped her up the steps, opened the door. I'd stayed up the night before getting everything ready. Put that blue throw over the back of the couch, 'cause that's where she used to put it. Turn on the little lamp in the corner so the house didn't look dead when we walked in. Set our old wedding photo on the coffee table so it'd be the first thing she saw. House smelled like wood polish and coffee. She stepped in and just stood there, sniffed the air. "I know this smell," she said. "I don't know from where, but I know it." "That's 'cause it's home," I said. She walked slow through the living room, hand grazing the back of the couch, the edge of the table. In the kitchen, she paused, looked around like she was mapping it. "This is the kitchen," she said, half question. "Yep," I said. "You used to fuss at me 'cause I'd leave the dishes." She laughed. "That sounds like me." I set a pan on the stove. "You want to help?" She came over, stood next to me. I cracked eggs, handed her the whisk. She took it like she'd done it yesterday. No hesitation. Whisk just right, not too hard, not too slow. She looked down at her own hands and smiled, kind of surprised. "My hands remember," she said. "My head don't, but my hands do." "Muscle got its own memory," I said. "Guess love does too." We ate at the table. Not across from an empty chair, across from each other. She wiped her mouth, looked around, and every now and then her eyes would land on that photo. She'd study it like she was trying to pull the past through it. Day went by slow and good. I showed her the bedroom. She didn't recognize it, but she liked the quilt. Showed her the bathroom. She said the tile was pretty. Every room she'd ask, "Was this always like this?" And I'd tell her stories. Not long, just little ones. Enough for the walls to start listening again. When the sun started to drop, I made us some tea, and we went out on the porch. That old wood creaked under us. Same sound it made when she sat there 30 years ago. Air was cool, smelled like dirt. She pulled the blue throw over her knees. "Do trains still come through?" she asked out of nowhere. I stared at her. "Yeah," I said. "They do. Right on time. Down the line. I heard that 9:40 whistle roll over the town. Low, lonely sound. We sat there together and listened. This time it didn't sound like it was reminding me I was alone. It sounded like it was telling me, you made it. That night, when we went to bed, I turned off the light and there was somebody breathing in that room besides me. For the first time in years, I didn't fall asleep listening to the refrigerator and the train. I fell asleep listening to her. Those next 6 months, man, that was the life I thought I lost. Morning started slow. She liked to water the plants on the window over the sink. Little spider plant, basil, one sad African violet that somehow stayed alive. She talked to him too. "Y'all be good today," she'd say, like they could hear. I'd be out in the shed, fighting that old mower that never wanted to start. She'd open the door, lean on the frame, watch me cuss at it. "You always talk to machines like that?" she asked once. I said, "You used to tell me Jesus ain't in those words." She laughed like, "Sounds like me." Saturdays we hit the farmer's market in town. Folks hadn't seen me walk around with a woman in a long time. Heads turned. I didn't care. I held a basket. She picked peaches, squeezed tomatoes, asked prices. Sometimes someone would say, "Miss Denise, that you?" Old church folks. She'd smile and nod, play along, and then when we got back in the car she'd whisper, "I don't remember them, but they were nice." I always said, "That's all right. Memory's like a slow train. It'll get here." Cooking was fun. I forgot what that felt like. One evening, I got heavy-handed with the salt in the chicken stew. Soon as she tasted it, her eyes got big. "Lord, what are you trying to do, pickle me?" We both cracked up. I said, "Well, you cooked for 30 years, so I gotta mess up for 30 to even it out." She came around the counter, took the spoon from me, fixed it without even thinking. Those hands really did remember. Not every day was easy, though. Once we were driving back after dark, and some car came up behind us with those bright white headlights. Hit her straight through the back window. She froze, hands gripping the seat, breathing too fast. Hey, I said, pulled over, turned the car off. I put my arm around her and just sat. Didn't ask, "What did you see?" Doc said, "Don't push." I just said, "You're safe. You're with me. Nothing bad's gonna happen here." After a minute, she let her head fall on my shoulder. Another time an ambulance went by close, siren screamed, and she dropped the plate she was washing. Water everywhere. I turned the TV off, closed the blinds, sat her on the couch, put that blue throw over her legs. We just breathed together. 5 minutes later she was fine, talking about cornbread. We slept in the same bed like nothing had ever been broken. She'd curl toward me, arm on my chest. Sometimes in the dark she'd whisper, "I missed you." I'd say, "I missed you too." I didn't tell her I'd been missing her for 3 decades. I just let her think it was the same for both of us. House sounded different. Dishes clinking, shoes on the hallway floor, her humming some half-remembered hymn. I'd come in from the shop and call, "Niece," and she'd answer from the kitchen, "Back here." Like old times. One night, I caught myself grinning at nothing, just standing in the doorway watching her dry her hands. I said it out loud later, sitting on the porch. I fell in love with her again. Maybe her mind wasn't all the way there, but it was the same heart looking at me. Every now and then, late at night, that little question tried to sneak in. "How, Malcolm? How did a woman you buried 30 years ago end up on your porch?" And I'd tell it, "Not tonight." I'd roll over, pull her closer, listen to her breathe, and let happiness win. But you can't hold a question down forever. One afternoon I was changing the oil in the car, and it just hit me clean, like a wrench to the back of the head. Wait a minute. I saw a body. Not heard about. Not they told me. I saw it. Closed casket at the funeral. Yeah. But before that they took me in that cold little room of the county and said, "Can you make ID?" Face was swollen. Color was wrong. But I said, "That's her." Paper said it was her. Pastor said it was her. The whole town said it was her. So how was she in my kitchen making cornbread? I wiped my hands, went inside, looked at her. She was at the table clipping coupons like she'd done her whole life. I felt this mix of love and something else. Not anger. Just, I need to know. I kissed her on the head and said, "I'm gonna run out for a bit." First person I called was Nancy. "Willow Harbor, this is Nancy." "Hey, Ms. Nancy, this is Malcolm Reed." "Oh, Mr. Reed. How is she?" "She's good. Real good," I said. "Listen, I got a question I probably should have asked the first day." She got real quiet on the line. "Okay, how does a woman get shot dead in Missouri in 1995 and then show up in your care in Illinois 30 years later? And nobody tell me nothing?" She took a breath. "Why don't you come in and talk to Dr. Cole? It's easier to go over the records in person." So I drove back up. Hospital looked the same, but I was looking at it different now. Not like a place that gave me a miracle, like a place that maybe made a mistake. Dr. Cole met me in his office. No coat this time, just shirt sleeves. He pulled a folder, thin, not thick, with her name the way they wrote it. "I figured this might be coming," he said. "I ain't trying to cause trouble." I said, "I'm just trying to make it make sense." "That's fair." He opened the folder. From what we can tell, she was found walking on the shoulder of 294 2 years ago. Nighttime. Struck by a vehicle. Driver did not remain. EMS brought her here. No identification. Clothing was generic. She was conscious, but disoriented. She could tell us English was her language. She could not tell us her name, her address, or any family. So nobody came looking? I asked. He shook his head. We circulated to local law enforcement. No match. We put her picture through missing persons. No match. That happens more than you think, especially with adults who've been transient. Okay, I said slow, but what about 30 years back? That, he said, leaning back. That's where the era matters. Early to mid-90s, small jurisdictions, officer-involved shooting. A lot of people wanted things closed quickly. If there was a woman of the right age, right build, similar features, if the scene was bloody, if the officers were under pressure, an erroneous ID could happen. I stared at him. So you're telling me I could have buried the wrong woman? I'm telling you it's possible, he said. Rare, but possible. And if the deceased had no one else close advocating, or if the husband, you, confirmed the ID, then the system would move forward. I remember that room. How bad I was crying. How much I wanted it to be over. How I said yes. He went on. Now layer on top of that the fact that the lady you have at home has retrograde amnesia. She can't supply her side of the timeline. That allows an old mistake to live a very long time. I nodded. It kinda held. It sat on the table without falling over. But it didn't sit straight. So you're saying, I repeated, police make a bad call in Missouri. I don't catch it 'cause I'm broke in half, and for 30 years nobody notices 'cause she's out there somewhere not remembering who she is. That is one coherent explanation, he said. Not the only one, but a workable one. Does it happen a lot? No, he said, but it happens. I looked at the photo in the folder. Her hospital intake. Hair matted. Eyes scared. Same face. Thank you, I said, standing. As I walked out, something in me said, that ain't the whole story, Malcolm. But I loved what I had back home more than I loved the truth right then. So I drove back to Brinley and told myself, good enough. Let be that. Couple weeks went by quiet. Then a couple months. We got back into our rhythm. Market, porch, church online when she felt up to it. I almost let myself forget that little wobble in the story. Then one afternoon, I remember 'cause I was peeling potatoes and she was humming in the living room. The house phone rang. I wiped my hands and picked up. Mr. Reed? This is Nancy Doyle. Soon as she said her name, I felt that little drop in my stomach. Her tone was different. Not friendly checking in, but work voice. Hey, Ms. Nancy, I said. Everything all right? Yes, she said. And then, well, yes and no. I stepped out on the porch so she couldn't hear. Go on. You remember we talked about how we never had a confirmed identity on her? Nancy said. And how sometimes old records could help. Yeah. Well, the state's been doing a cleanup. Digitizing old vital records. We were asked to participate, just to see if any of our long-term, no ID residents match anything. She took a breath. We pulled some birth records out of Louisiana. Rural parish. Early 1960s. There's an entry there for a Harper family with twin girls. I didn't say nothing. One card says Denise Harper, healthy female. The second card, same mother, same night, says female Harper, no signs of life. That second one is stamped for removal. Okay, I said slow. Except, she went on, somewhere after that, in the foster/adoption paperwork, there's a living female infant matching that second entry. Different clerk, different date. Looks like somebody realized she was alive, or there was a mix-up at the hospital, and she got placed. That child moves through the system, changes last name, eventually ends up in Illinois. I lean on the porch post. You telling me the woman in my house is that second baby? By age, by approximate height, by features in the old photo we accessed, yes. It lines up a little too well. Her voice softened, which would mean the person you buried was most likely the original Denise. The first twin. I closed my eyes. Nancy hurried on, like she didn't want me to think she'd gone behind my back. Mr. Reed, listen to me carefully. We have not contacted anyone. We did not notify potential family. We did not send out a bulletin. Right now, this information is just with me, Dr. Cole, and you. I'll let that sink in. So nobody knows she's alive. Nobody, she said. Not unless you tell them. We would need her consent to reach out anyway. And given her amnestic profile, we didn't want to trigger anything without talking to you. I looked through the screen door. She was still in there, folding dish towels, humming. My heart hurt. Do you know if she got people? I asked. Like, husband, kids. We can't say for certain without confirming, Nancy said. But from the trail we saw, yes. There is indication of an adult adoption file and later a marriage license in Illinois, which could mean a husband. There are also 2 dependent entries a few years after, likely children. My throat got tight. So there's folks out there thinking she dead. Or missing, Nancy said. Or gone. We don't know what story they were told. I didn't talk for a second. Just listened to her breathe on the line. She said, very clear, Mr. Reed, we are placing this in your hands. You've been her caregiver. You've built rapport. We don't want to blow up the life she is now unless you believe it's in her best interest. But ethically, we had to tell you. Yeah, I said, voice low. Yeah, you did. We can support you, she added. However you choose. But right now, it's just us. I hung up and stood there on that porch like somebody had poured cold water down my back. Inside, she called, Malcolm, you want me to start the corn? I swallowed hard and said like everything was fine. Yeah, baby, go ahead and start it. Next morning, I was on that highway again, headed back to Rivergate. Sun wasn't even high yet. I didn't turn the radio on. I needed my head clear. I kept seeing 2 babies in a hospital somewhere down in Louisiana. One marked Denise, one marked no signs of life. And I kept thinking, what if the line on the paper was wrong, and my whole life been around that one wrong line? At the hospital, they knew me already. I told the front desk I needed to see Dr. Cole about a records discrepancy. I said it just like that, records discrepancy, so they'd move faster. 10 minutes later, he opened his office door. Mr. Reed, he said, like he'd been expecting me. I want to see it, I said, walking in. All of it. Birth cards, stamps, all that old mess. Show me. He didn't fight me. He went to the file cabinet, pulled out a manila folder, thicker than the first one I'd seen, and laid it on the desk between us. He sat down slow. All right, he said. Let's walk through it. First page, photocopy of an old, faded birth record. Parish of St. James, Louisiana. Date matched her age. Female, Harper Denise. Weight, length, mother's name. Next page, same date, same mother. Female, Harper, no signs of life. Down at the bottom, a red stamp. Transferred. Dr. Cole tapped it. This is where the confusion starts, he said. Baby was initially charted as stillborn, but the transferred stamp suggests someone, maybe a nurse, maybe the attending, believed she was viable and sent her to a different unit. In the 60s, especially in rural wards, not everything got rewritten perfectly. So she didn't die, I said. Seems she didn't, he said. She lived. And somewhere down the line, she was entered into foster care as an unnamed female infant. That's this page. He flipped. Another form, typed later, different typewriter. New last name written in. Eventually, she was adopted by a Clark family in Illinois. At that point, she becomes Monique Harper Clark, likely a way to preserve the original name. So she grew up, I said, hearing it like a story. She had a whole life. She did, he said. Graduated high school. We have a yearbook photo that matches the facial structure. Married in her late 20s. Marriage license in Cook County. 2 dependents listed a few years later. And then, silence. Until she turns up with us, 2 years ago, after a vehicle impact. I rubbed my face. And the woman I married, the one I buried, he looked at me gently, was very likely the first twin, Denise. I sat back. Felt heavy. So when she saw that newspaper here, she saw a face identical to hers, he said, and a name that matched the one she half remembered. For twins, especially identical twins, that's completely plausible. She thought, that must be me. That must be my husband. I nodded, slow. She wasn't lying. No, he said. She was trying to come home with the pieces she had. I stared at the folder. You tell her husband? The one from Illinois. He shook his head. We can't. Not without her explicit consent. HIPAA. Ethics, trauma, risk. Right now, the only people who know the full through line are you, me, and Ms. Doyle. So that man, and them kids, my throat tightened. They still think she gone. Most likely, he said. Or missing. Or they have an unresolved case. We don't know. What I do know is, you are the person she has a bond with today. And you're the only one currently in position to decide whether to reconnect her to that previous life. I looked at her picture. Intake photo, scared eyes, hair mess from the accident. Same face I got sleeping in my bed. So you put on me, I said. He didn't flinch. I'm putting in the hands of the person who loves her right now. I nodded. That's the hard place to put it. I walked out of that office feeling heavier than when I walked in. Sun was bright out front, but it didn't reach me. I got in the Buick, shut the door, and just sat there with my hands on the wheel. I didn't even start it right away. I thought, they gave me back a mistake, and I went and fell in love with the mistake. I pulled out the lot and hit the highway with the radio off. Didn't want music. Didn't want talk. Just tires on the road. I kept replaying the last 6 months like a little movie. Her on my porch with a blue throw, her laughing at my salty soup, her hand reaching for mine in the dark. That was the best stretch of my life since '95. No question. And now I knew it wasn't even meant for me. One voice in my head was stubborn. She still feel like Denise. She look like Denise. She love you like Denise. God don't make two faces that close by accident. That voice said, keep her. This is your second chance. But the other voice, the one that sounded like a pastor, sounded like my mama, said, Malcolm, that woman got a man somewhere. Got kids. They probably sit at some table and pray, Lord, bring mama. You gonna sit here and act like you don't know now? I gripped the wheel tighter. Prairie rolling by, big sky. I remembered her freezing at those headlights, and me holding her. I remembered her eyes lighting up at Peaches. I remembered her whispering, my hands remember. You can't unsee that. You can't unlove that. Love don't just go back in the box 'cause paperwork changed. I thought about that man in Illinois. Didn't even know his name yet. Just husband. I pictured him older now, like me, maybe sitting at his own table with an empty chair. I thought about 2 kids, grown now, who got a hole where their mama should be. And it made me mad in a way, 'cause I was finally happy, finally full, and now I had to share that happiness with ghosts. All the way to Brinley, I kept switching sides. She's mine. She's theirs. She chose you. She didn't choose, she forgot. And under all of it was this small, scared truth. I do not want to be alone again. When I pulled up to the house, sun was hitting the front windows just right. Made the place look warm, lived in. If you was just driving by, you'd say, nice little home, couple in there. I sat in the car a second, watching my own front door like it belonged to somebody else now. I walked in. She was at the kitchen counter, sleeves rolled up, working on those plants again, clipping dead leaves, turning pots so the light hit even. Radio on low playing Old Soul. Smell of onions from the pan. Everyday stuff. The exact kind of scene I've been praying for 30 years. She turned, saw me, smiled like I was the only person she wanted to see. Hey baby, she said. You back fast. That smile hurt. Yeah, I said. Wasn't too bad up there. She wiped her hands on a towel and came over, hugged me like she always did, head right under my chin. My arms went around her out of habit, but inside I was burning. I'm holding a woman who got a husband somewhere. I'm holding a mama somebody cries for, and she didn't know. That made it worse. You hungry? She asked, pulling back. I started the chicken. I couldn't remember if you wanted rice or potatoes, so I just put water on. Rice is fine, I said. Voice felt thick. She didn't hear it. She just turned back to the stove, humming again. I stood there in the doorframe, watching her move around my kitchen, like it was our kitchen. Her body remembered where the spoons were now. She opened the right drawer without thinking. She reached for the right cabinet. She belonged, because I'd made room for her to belong. And I knew, clear as day, she didn't remember none of the old life. No Chicago. No Illinois. No man named Clark. No kids. If I kept my mouth shut, she'd go on like this. Water the plants. Cook supper. Sleep in my bed. Love me. Never know. That knowledge sat on my chest like a cinder block. She looked over her shoulder and said something small, so normal it almost broke me. I like it here, Mal. Just that. I like it here. I almost told her right then. Tongue was already pushing the words out. Baby, there's something you need to know. But I swallowed it. Felt it burn all the way down. I kissed her temple instead and said, I'm glad. Then I went to the sink, ran water, pretended to wash a clean plate, just so I didn't have to look at her and see all the people I was keeping her from. That night I didn't sleep. She knocked out quick. She always did when she'd been on her feet. Little soft breaths, hand on my arm. I stared at the ceiling fan go round and felt my head do the same thing. First way was the clean way. Tell her everything. Tell her, baby, they found something in the records. You got a sister, my Denise, and she's the one that died. You're the other girl. You got a whole family up in Illinois that been waiting. Then I take her to River Gate, sit with Dr. Cole, let him lay it out slow. That's honest. That's right. And I lose her. 'Cause once a woman remembers her babies, or even hears she got 'em, she going back. Second way was the soft way. Call Nancy first. Say, can y'all do the memory talks y'all do? Can y'all bring it up, not me? That would give her a cushion, a doctor voice, not mine. But the road still ended at the same gate. Sooner or later there'd be some man standing in a hallway saying, Monique, and she'd turn. And I'd be the extra in that scene. Third way, I didn't like even thinking it. Find a family and tell them, but keep her in the dark. Call around Chicago, say, I got your wife. I got your mama. But you can't have her yet. That's straight up wrong. That's kidnapping with paperwork. That's making everybody hurt at once. Fourth way was the ugly way, the one the scared part of me wanted. Say nothing. Keep living. Act like that phone call from Nancy never came. Let this woman die in Brinley, as Denise read. Let some kids in Illinois grow old with a question mark. And I get to keep my porch nights and my eggs in the morning. That's the easiest. That's the one the devil puts in the front. I turned on my side and watched her sleep. She looked peaceful. No sign of Chicago on her face. No sign of River Gate. Just my wife, or the closest the world was ever going to give me again. I whispered, real low, so I wouldn't wake her, but I wanted somebody to hear, I'm scared to go back to that silence. Said it like a confession, 'cause that's the truth underneath all the options. I wasn't just picking for her. I was picking for me. And I knew whatever I chose, somebody was going to hurt. Next morning, I woke up like I'd already made a decision. Not the big one, just a small, selfish one. I'm going to take one more week. 1 week where I pretend that phone call from Nancy never happened. 1 week where she's just my Denise, not somebody's missing Monique. So that's what I did. Saturday, we went to the farmer's market like usual. Sun was out, air soft. I walked a little slower, so she could stay on the shady side. She picked up peaches, held them to her nose. This smells like summers when I was little, she said. We used to sit on a porch and spit the pits in the yard. I smiled, but in my head I thought, not my porch. Some other porch. Proof, right there in her mouth, that she had a whole life before me these last months. We bought bread from the lady who bakes too much. Got sweet corn. Couple jars of pickles. Folks waved, called me Mal, nodded at her like she'd always been with me. I liked that. I liked how normal it looked. At home I turned on the radio, old school R&B, and let it play low while we cooked. She moved around my kitchen like she'd been born in it. Water's warm today, she said when she was rinsing greens. I like when it's warm, 'cause the water where I grew up was always cold. Again, there it was. A place I ain't never been. A sink I ain't never seen. I tucked it away like I was collecting puzzle pieces for somebody else. In the evenings we sat on the porch same as always. She watched the street like it was TV. Kids on bikes, neighbor with his dog, mail truck. One night it rained. That slow, steady summer rain that smells like dirt waking up. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Lord, that smell, she said. That's school mornings. I said, in Brinley. She opened her eyes, kinda lost. I don't know. Somewhere it rained like this. I didn't press. Doc said don't chase memories. But I heard what I needed. She had roots in some other ground. All week I watched her harder than I ever did. How she tucked her hair. How she laughed from her belly. How she hummed when she read. I was trying to memorize the way she was with me, 'cause I didn't know how long I'd get to keep that version. At night, when she fell asleep, I stayed up and just listened. To her breath, to the train, to dishes settling in the rack. I thought, this is a good sound. This is the sound of a house that ain't lonely. And then right behind it, this might not be mine to keep. I didn't tell her about the call. I didn't tell her about Louisiana, about twins, about some man in Illinois. I just gave us 7 clean days of nothing happened. Best 7 days I ever stole. But a stolen week don't stop the bill from coming. One evening, was getting dark, porch light already on. She wanted to take a shower. I stayed at the table. No TV, no radio, just me and that folder in my head. And I said it out loud, like I was talking to y'all right now. All right, Malcolm, let's be men about it. If I tell the truth, the whole truth, here's what happens. Somewhere up in Illinois, 2 grown kids get a call. We found your mama. Some man who'd been sleeping next to an empty pillow for years gets to see his wife walk through a door. A family that'd been carrying a mystery gets an answer. And me? I get to keep my soul straight. I get to say, I didn't steal nobody's people. That's the good part. But I also lose her. 'Cause I know women. I know mamas. You tell a mama, you got children, and 9 out of 10 she going where them children at. Even if her memory ain't perfect. Even if her heart loves me. Blood calls loud. And I will walk back in this house to 1 chair pulled out, 1 cup on the shelf, 1 bed cold on my side. 30 years of quiet again. That's the price of doing right. Now if I keep quiet, if I act like I never got that call, I get a hold on all this. Morning coffee. Her at my sink. Her head on my shoulder when the train goes by. I get to be the man who got his wife back. I get joy in my old age. But I will know, every single night, that somewhere a son or a daughter is praying, Lord, send mama home. And I'll be the reason he don't. I'll be the wall. I don't know if I can pray and block somebody else's prayer at the same time. I thought about when I buried my real Denise. Back then I couldn't fix nothing. Bullet was shot. Paper was signed. Casket was shut. I just had to stand there and take it. This time God, or life, or paperwork, put a fix right in my hand. You can make it right, Malcolm. But it's gonna hurt. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, and I said, almost whispering, if you love her, you let her go. I was this close to saying it for real. This close to calling Nancy and telling her, set it up, all of it. But I didn't. I just sat there, listening to the water run in the bathroom, and I let the hurt sit with me. So that's it. Now you know all of it. That woman sleeping in my house right now, she ain't my Denise. She looks like her. She moves like her. She even laughs from the same place. But she ain't her. She's the other girl. The one the nurses down in Louisiana thought wasn't breathing. The one they stamped and rolled away. She lived. Got taken in. Got a new name, Monique. Grew up. Got married. Had kids. Then got hit and forgot. And when she saw a picture of her sister, my wife, she thought, that's me. And she came home to me, 'cause I was the only name in that story. The hospital didn't do this on purpose. They didn't try to mess me up. They just didn't know. And now I do. Right now I got 2 roads, and neither one of them is easy. First road, I tell her. I sit her down at that kitchen table and I say, baby, listen. You're not Denise. You're her sister. You got people up north. They've been missing you a long time. Then I call Nancy. I call Dr. Cole. We do all them careful meetings. We get in touch with Illinois. And one day a car pulls up out front, and a man and 2 grown kids get out. She steps off this porch and goes to them. And I stand here on this same porch, watching, proud and broke at the same time. Then I go back in that house, and it's me and the train again. Second road. I don't say a word. I let her keep being Denise Reed from Brinley, Missouri. I let her live this sweet, simple life with me. I let her die old in my bed and folks at church say, Brother Malcolm took good care of his wife. And somewhere in Illinois, on somebody's birthday, on Christmas, on Mother's Day, some man and 2 kids look at a picture and say, Mama, where you at? And I'll know. I'll know exactly where she at. My heart want to keep her. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I'm 60 years old. I done cried enough in this life. I finally got somebody sitting across from me at dinner. I finally got a house that don't sound empty. I don't want to hand that back. But my spirit, That little voice that sounds like Sunday. It keeps saying, Malcolm, you can't build joy on a lie. Not for long. Not and call it love. 'Cause love don't just hold on. Love also does right by the other people in the story. Even the ones you ain't never met. So I'm coming to y'all 'cause I know some of y'all been in spots like this. Maybe not with twins and hospitals, but with choices. Tell the truth and lose something, or stay quiet and keep it. Tell me in the comments what you would do. Would you call that family? Would you tell her everything? Or would you say, God gave her to me. I'm keeping her. And I'ma ask you straight. If you believe, like I kinda do, that a man's supposed to tell the truth even when it breaks his own heart, hit that like button so I know I ain't out here by myself. If you want to hear how this ends, what I actually end up doing with her, go on and subscribe. Stay with me. I'm going to need folks praying for me on this one. Thank you for listening all the way. I know it was long. I know it was heavy, but you sat with me in it, and that means something. Take care of your people. Call them while they're still here. Don't let your house stay quiet if you can help it. I'm Malcolm Reed from Brinley, Missouri. God bless you. I'll see you in the next story.